After the consent. Oh, it's part of that.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'd like to call the meeting of the City Council of the City of Marysville to order today, Tuesday, July 16, 2019. Roll call, please.
Mr. Simmons?
Here.
Mr. Betacavoli?
Here.
Ms. McKenzie? Mr. Hudson?
Here.
Mr. Samayola?
Here. With that, I'd like to invite everyone to please stand and help me with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Brown, any changes to the agenda?
Yes, there is. We will be removing item 6B, proclamation celebrating the 100th anniversary of Huss Brothers at this time.
6B. With that, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda as changed.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Hudson, second by Simmons. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is approved with a vote of 4-0. So we have section 6. We have 1, 2, 3 presentations and commendations. First one is a proclamation for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Then C will be oath of office and pinning ceremony for Police Officer John Lawyer. And D will be a presentation by the Marysville Rotary Foundation regarding a proposed gazebo at Washington Square Park. Do we have a representative from CASA? Hi. Please come on down. We have a little camera so the public can see. I'd like to share this proclamation with you. I'd like to read it. We'd like to declare the month of July 2019 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in the City of Marysville. Sexual assault is an intolerable, violent crime with public health implications for every person as a victim, survivor, or as a family member, significant other, neighbor, co-worker of a victim or survivor. No one person, organization, agency, or community can eliminate sexual assault on their own. We must work together to educate our entire population about what can be done to prevent sexual assault. Support victim survivors and their significant others, and increase support for agencies providing services to victims and survivors. And Casa de Esperanza has led the way in addressing sexual assault by providing 24-hour hotline services to victims and survivors and their significant others, responding to emergency calls, offering support and comfort to those impacted by sexual assault during medical exams, criminal proceedings, and empowering those impacted by sexual assault to chart their own course for healing. And ending sexual assault must include active public and private efforts to end sexual violence in collaboration with Casa de Esperanza, including conversation about what sexual violence is, how to prevent it, how to help survivors connect with crucial counseling and support services, and how every segment of our society can work together to better address sexual violence. And whereas staff and volunteers of sexual assault programs work year-round to encourage every person to end sexual violence and to support survivors by providing prevention education, survivor empowerment, information to schools, churches, civic organizations, as well as medical, mental health, law enforcement, education, and criminal justice personnel regarding sexual assault issues. Casa de Esperanza has set an important example of how forging collaborative relationships between service agencies or organizations serves to improve the quality of services for those profoundly and directly impacted by sexual violence. This setting, an important example for how the rest of the community might work together to speak out and find solutions to sexual violence. Casa Esperanza requests public support and assistance as it continues efforts to bring real hope for freeing victims for the tragedy of sexual violence, to create a future where all women, men, and children can live free from violence and exploitation. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Mayor Ricky Samayo, and the City Council of the City of Marysville do hereby declare the month of July 2019 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in the City of Marysville. In cooperation with the Casa Esperanza, we actively proclaim that no means no. Women and men working together can make a difference in the fight against sexual assault and gender violence in our community. Thank you for all your work.
So thank you to the City Council. We appreciate your support. We're hoping that we will see some of you out there on Saturday at Yuba Sutter Mall. We are having a walk a mile in her shoes that day. It starts at 11:30 for sign up, and then the walk actually starts at noon. And we have heels up there a size 16. So we can accommodate many of you. If you can't walk, come and support those who are walking. I know that Chris will be there. So we really support everybody's, efforts in whatever the way they can do that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chief? Oh. Are we pitting? We're pitting? Sorry. Congratulations, sir.
Raise your right hand. Do you, John Lawyer, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that you will bear truth, faith, and allegiance to the Constitution of the State of California and the Constitution of the United States of America, and that you take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which you are about to enter?
Yes, ma'am.
Congratulations.
Good evening. I've got the pleasure of introducing Mr. Lawyer. So, kind of a funny story. We're kind of comical, aren't we? So, he gets his orientation week, right? And so he comes in to get sworn in with Persephone, officially, so he can carry his gun and everything. And so, we got a new McGruff costume. And so I put on the McGruff head, and I'm standing behind Persephone while he's trying to get sworn in, and he couldn't hold a straight face. So you're going to fit right in. So John started at the Sierra College Modular Academies, graduated level 3 and level 2 there throughout 2017, and he began working at Los Rios College as a reserve officer, gaining experience, and then went to the academy at Yuba College, where I had the pleasure of meeting him in one of my classes out there. And it's good teaching out there because we get to recruit, folks to come work for us, and here he is. So he gives me a phone call and says he wants to come to work for us, and here he is today. So, brand new out of the academy, we're going to teach him the ropes, and hopefully he'll be a great addition to the team that we already have. He grew up in Rio Linda. He graduated Rio Linda High School. He's married. He's got 3 children, 2 boys and a newborn baby girl. They're 5, 3, and 3 months. They're all here in attendance. Who's attending with him is his wife, Rachel, his children, Johnny, William, and Isabel, along his wife's parents, Dan and Yolanda Libby, as well as his uncle Kenny, Lawyer, his aunt and uncle, Dory, and Mike Montoya, right? And can we have his Aunt Dory come up? She's going to be pinning him today. Here you go. You just want to get a photo?
Good job.
congratulations, welcome aboard. Enjoy your training with your FTO this evening, and go out there and do what you guys do. So be safe.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for that, and I will have a presentation by the Marysville Rotary Foundation regarding a proposed gazebo at Washington Square Park.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Vanessa Helder, and I'm here representing Marysville Rotary. I was actually, I'm the 100th president of Marysville Rotary. And so on behalf of myself and the Marysville Rotary Foundation, we have a little presentation here. And so I'll read this. So the Rotary Club of Marysville has been an integral part of the City of Marysville history for over a century, with a commitment to service above self and the city's betterment. This year marks the 100-year anniversary for the Rotary Club of Marysville, and we felt it was an appropriate way to recognize with pride both our club and our city. As Rotarians, we would like to give the city and our community a beautiful, usable memorial that will also benefit the community and have a long-term sustainability. Today we are here in hopes you will consider accepting our gift of a beautiful memorial pavilion. We are estimating that the 30 by 30-foot pavilion will be an investment of approximately $25,000 to $35,000. We are in the planning stages and look forward to the City of Marysville accepting our gift to the city. So we're proposing to build a pavilion that will be constructed with longevity and easily maintained throughout the years. Our plan is to use all businesses from Marysville and the Yuba Sutter area to help us bring this gift to fruition. We would also like to have personally engraved bricks to honor our members, past presidents, businesses, and community members. The proposed location is on the corner of 10th and E Streets at the Washington Park. It will be a perfect location and a great addition to the city. This location offers great parking, it's easily accessible, it's a central location, easily visible to our community and our visitors. So we have a number of different options that we are open to suggestions on what we would like. So here's some options: an open space with brick pillars, open space with wood pillars. This right here to me is something that, wouldn't it be great to see parks in our community having gatherings and stuff like this there. A metal roof. So some other things that we're taking into consideration is automatic lighting and the placement of the lighting, so anybody who lives nearby, that it wouldn't be shining into their backyards or anything like that. Placement of an installation of a concrete pad, and we would love to have some input on the city of color design concept. And the benefits that we look at is that we can have this park where people can have meetings, people can gather there before some of the Gold Sox games, before or after, a shady place for family gatherings. I can see people meeting up that I'm gonna go over to Starbucks and get a coffee, and then I'm gonna go grab something to eat, and we meet over there, and just a good central location. And then also when people are driving by, that they see what's going on, and it could encourage people to enjoy the park either at that time or some other time. And also it would be a great addition to the park for the City of Marysville to rent out for community events. Any questions?
Thank you. Do we have questions, members?
Yeah, I do. If this were to get approved and for support, how long are you guys looking out till it would be built?
Our anniversary is the beginning of May 2020, so we would like to potentially get it done before then.
All right, thank you.
Any comments, folks?
I think it's a wonderful idea, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
They can
bring?
We'll ask staff to, our next business meeting is not till September 16th, but I think there's plenty of time to work with staff and have them give you, have a conversation with them and kind of see what the next steps are.
That would
Thank you
be
so
great.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move to item, section 7. This is a community consent calendar forum. We invite individuals wishing to address the city council concerning consent calendar items or on any matters not already in the agenda are invited to make oral comments of up to 3 minutes. When you are called, we ask you to please go to the podium, give your name clearly for audio recording. You are requested to address your comments to the council and not to the audience. We tell you by state law, the council is not permitted to undertake any action or discussion on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. If you would like a response from the council, we ask you to please fill out the speaker's card and you will be contacted within the next few days. Member of the public like to make comment?
My name is Charles Matthews. I've been a resident of Marysville and Yuba County my entire life. We're at the point where we would like to do something for the community, and with a lot of help from a lot of people, we think one of the things that we could do to benefit the community would be to restart the pump that in the 70s the city council put a pump in the river and the plumbing to go through the levees and to put fresh water in Ellis Lake. We have a proposal in front of you that sets it up so that there is no cost to the city. We would bore all the costs. The one caveat is if we're going to do it, we want to do it promptly, not over the next few years. So I know that you're not having another meeting till the end of August, and that concerns me that, and I know by law you can't act tonight, but possibly you could encourage your staff to work and see if we could bring this to fruition during the month of August or have a special meeting. Basically, the plan is that the pump that is out there, first we would check to make sure the underground wiring is still good. The city has already put the motor back on the pump. We'd make sure that it's free and ready to run. We would replace the meter and the control box on the existing pole. Then the city would inspect it and PG&E would hook it back up. We would be responsible for all of the costs for both the hooking up, fixing the pump that needs it, and doing water testing. And so we'd have a base to start with and to go forward. Dale Whitmore will be speaking after me. He has been working on this Ellis Lake project for over 10 years that I know of, and maybe longer. And we would appreciate your support and see if we can make it happen. I'm obviously answer questions, but I'm not sure, Mr. Mayor, whether you're allowed to ask any.
No, I think you put a memo together and you handed it to us. Sorry. You put a memo together and you handed it to us. If there's comments from the council, let's wait till council comments, and then we can speak then, and we can kind of speak freely then as well, if there's a back and forth. So I don't want to have a back and forth discussion right now.
We appreciate any help you can give us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, Charlie.
Hello, my name is Dale Whitmore, and again, I'm working with Mr. Matthews on this important, what I would call a supplemental project, a way to get some information. We've been discussing Ellis Lake, and we've been discussing algae, and we've been discussing carp and aeration. been doing a lot of discussion for many, many years now. Lack of pumping into the lake. I mean, 10 years ago when our budget went bad, we've been barely pumping enough water into the lake just to maintain the lake. There's been no flow through for about the last decade. And consequently, we've been having these tremendous algae problems. And I think this would give us some very important information that a group of us are willing to pay for to make this thing work for the next couple of months and see just what it takes to take water out of the Yuba River, which has very few minerals in it as compared to the groundwater that we're currently pumping in now. The groundwater that we're pumping in is loaded with minerals that are feeding the algae, that are increasing how fast the algae grows. And water out of the Yuba River will reduce that impact. So I would encourage the council to expedite this as best they can and let us go ahead and spend some money and see if we can make this work. Because we only have a little bit of time here the next couple of months when the weather is still hot, so we can see what impact Yuba River water has on the algae growth. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Can I get a 15-second jump start? Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, and city staff. My name is David Reed, and I'm the executive director of the Yuba City Sutter Arts Council. Founded in Marysville in 1981, it's my understanding that our original offices were actually here in City Hall in a small closet under the steps. We're the local partner of the California Arts Council as authorized by Yuba and Sutter counties. We own 2 properties in Marysville that form our arts campus, the Burroughs Theater, Courtyard Art Gallery, and our offices at 7th and East Streets. Our mission has to do with all things arts and education, arts and corrections, public art projects, events, concerts, festivals, art gallery displays like the one we have here in City Hall, and 8 other locations throughout the community. We very much appreciate the council's recent decision to award YSA an honorarium of $2,500. It's been many, many years since the city has been in a position to allocate any monetary support to one of its oldest nonprofits, and we thank you for that. However, I also learned that the city council has decided to withhold that funding due to the fact that Yuba College has not completed the sign base for the digital sign that it installed in front of our East Street property. Councilmember Buttacavoli, you'll recall, as you're a member of the review board, at that time the agreement was between the City of Marysville and Yuba College. YSA is not party to that agreement, but rather is an innocent bystander. So we request that the city follow up with Yuba College, Dr. Javaharapur and David Willis on the completion of the sign, and we also request the release of the committed funding without restrictions. My second topic for the evening has to do with the placement of public art in Marysville, specifically murals, although we also have some sculpture projects on the horizon. The issue arose recently when one of our artists was told to stop creating murals on 2 buildings where he had building owner approval. He was told he would need to fill out an application, pay a $150 fee, and go before the ARB for mural approval. Needless to say, this caught my attention when I heard the story. We currently have 6 new mural projects in various stages, and none of them were budgeted to include mural fees. Will these fees be imposed on other recently created murals, like those on the back of the 420 building along 5th Street? In recent years, YSA has done a number of projects for the city of Marysville. We funded the 80-foot Bacchae Daydream mural in historic Chinatown. Unfortunately, the fabulous mural has been made off limits and degraded by the park structure on the adjacent lot, which now blocks the mural. Should I assume that plans and renderings were submitted for that project with approval by the ARB? We began our Cover It utility box mural project here in Marysville with the poppies at 5th and F and the biking and the buttes at 10th and Ramirez, and paid for those ourselves. The city and Marysville High School asked us to create murals in the tunnel near the school, which we did, all at our expense. We've been working with the Helix Environmental Planning Team on the public art components, including murals, and budgeting for the anticipated parks grants, which I know they'll be discussing later this evening. 10 more? We're currently under contract with the cities of Yuba City and Live Oak for large-scale, multi-year public art programs. They pay us to manage a process to create these murals for them, for the betterment of the community, to create a pride of place, and as part of their cohesive overall economic development plans. We convene committees of council members, city staff, local citizens to determine the themes and artistic concepts to be used. Marysville approach seems a little reactionary, backwards, and inappropriate. Please support us and let us continue the good work we do here in Marysville and beyond, the work we've been doing for nearly 40 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
You bet.
Chris Pettigo, 139 Olear Road. I rise in support of the Ellis Lake Pump Project. I think it's a great way for some nice folks to give back to the community. I do believe it will have a positive impact on the lake. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for making the time. Any other members of the public like to make a comment? Thank you for those. I think I owe you a call, David, so we'll chat. Item 8, consent calendar. All matters on the consent calendar agenda items are considered to be routine and are therefore approved by one motion unless any member of the council or our city manager would like to request that a matter be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and action. What's the will of the council?
Approve consent.
Motion on the floor. Is there a
Second.
motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is approved with a vote of 4-0.
Ordinance number 1418, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Marysville approving the development agreement by and between the city and Certified Ag Lab, LLC.
Thank you. We'll move to section 9. These are discussion and action items. Item A, resolution approving the submittal of a grant application to Proposition 68, Statewide Parking Programs, SSP. The recommendation from staff is to adopt resolution number 2019-36, which will direct staff to submit a grant application for the 3 park renovation projects in the city of Marysville. Ms. Brown?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you may recall, earlier this spring, the council approved a Parks and Open Space Master Plan. Immediately following that, at the time of the presentation, Mr. Bermudez, the former Community Development and Services Director, discussed the idea of if and when the plan was approved of moving forward with starting to implement that plan, including this grant, very timely grant application related to parks, Proposition 68 funds that have come out and enabling cities to apply for a variety of park projects. We, having also lost the Assistant Director of Community Development and Services earlier in the year, we quickly pivoted to use the salary savings from that to hire Helix. And tonight's presenter is Jesse Lett, Landscape Planner for Helix Environmental Planning, who will be presenting 3 grant applications that have been prepared by Helix to submit. The due date for the applications to the state are August 5th, so we're on a kind of a tight timeline. But these are 3 really, I think, very exciting and robust planning projects for 3 parks in the city of Marysville: Veterans, Gavin, and Minor Park. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jesse Lett, Landscape Planner, to give a presentation to the council on those applications.
Hello. So as she mentioned, I'm Jessie. I'm working for Helix Environmental Planning. We're the consultants who are assisting in the grant application preparation process, as well as the design and the community outreach elements. I'm going to run you through the process that we've gone through so far, and then through the design piece. So if we're looking at the schedule that we have here, the bond was approved on June 5th, 2018, and that is where the money comes from for this grant application program. The grant applications themselves are due August 5th, and the grantees will be notified by the end of 2019. And then the actual grant will have to be implemented by March of 2022. So we've selected 3 parks for this process. There's Gavin Park, which is in the northeast corner of Marysville. There's Minor Park, which is in sort of a central area, and then there's Veterans Park, which is in the downtown area. These were identified as part of the Park and Open Space Master Planning process as high priority parks, and also they are very competitive for the grant application, which has different eligibility requirements. To go over their existing conditions, Gavin Park is sometimes also known as Johnson Park, and it has existing lawn, playgrounds, picnic tables, drinking fountains, and trees. Minor Park is also sometimes known as Miners Square, and it has a skate park most notably, as well as a playground and a small basketball court. And then Veterans Park is across from Adventist Health Right Out Hospital, and it has the Veterans Memorial as well as an existing playground and some other seating. So the process we went through started as part of the Park and Open Space Master Plan. There was 2 community outreach meetings, and as well as some stakeholder meetings and a survey. More than 144 people responded to the survey, and we had between 15 and 25 people at each of the outreach meetings. This is what not only informed which parks were selected, but also was the starting point for what is going to go into the parks. So some specific design feedback was noted at that point and was then incorporated into the park designs as we move forward. We started the first public open house that was specifically associated with the grant application process out at Veterans Park, and we had mapping activities that did not dictate to the community what was to be seen at all, that just showed a blank map and opportunities to draw on it, opportunities to provide comments, a drawing station for youth, and we had 21 community members attend that meeting. From there, we took all of that input and integrated it into a draft concept design for each of the 3 parks, as well as some inspiration images, and those were presented at a second open house at Minor Park. And the feedback received from that meeting was primarily very, very positive, so only minor tweaks ended up having to be made to the designs, the draft designs for the 3rd public open house meeting, which was held here at City Hall on July 9th. We're also working on partnerships. Partnerships are really important in the success of any project, especially one within a public park, and they're also required by the grant application. So we have some partners already on board, and we're actually in the works, in a few more in the works. The feedback summary is really important. People really, really wanted to see shade. They wanted to see shaded picnic areas. They wanted to see shaded playgrounds. Renovated playgrounds were also a big ask, especially at Gavin Park, where the surfacing in particular is gravel and not very liked. Accessible paths are really important to the community, and then more sports courts, especially basketball, and additional trees. We did have some elements that had a lot of supporters and some critics or some concerns. Specifically, restrooms was a big one. A lot of people are really interested in seeing restrooms, and a lot of people are very concerned about the maintenance of restrooms. We're going to come back to that question at the end of this presentation. And there's also a lot of interest in seeing a dog park, and a couple of people who were not as interested in seeing the dog park. And then some elements people wanted to maintain: Veterans Memorial, large existing trees, and integration with the neighborhood are all really important to the community. And so now we're going to go into each of the designs a little bit more in depth. This is Gavin Park, so that's the one in the northeast corner. We're looking at taking the existing play area and removing it and replacing it with a treehouse themed play area that's sort of center on this plan. To the left and the right, we have some sports areas. There's a center plaza, and the entrance would be on this plan on the top center. So we're going to kind of go into some inspiration for each of those pieces. So the entrance and the art signage is something that a lot of these parks don't have, and was identified as part of the master planning process as very important. And then we're looking at integrating public art as a part of making this entrance a notable piece. Moving down from the entrance into the plaza area, this is where Chime Airport was historically, so we're looking at architecturally incorporating historic aircraft hangar looks, and also the idea of the Thomas Church design approach. Thomas Church is a designer who's done a lot of the work within Marysville in the past. And then continuing south, or I guess it would actually be west, we're looking at the playground area, which would be treehouse themed. So we have some images here of different treehouse elements. These would not be enclosed in such a manner as to prevent rain from hitting the play structures, and they would not be large enough for someone to lay down in, which is one of the considerations that I know was very important to the community. They would be connected with a lot of rope climbers. Under consideration as a zip line, a lot of accessible elements, things that different age groups could access. The way the grant is structured, we would define the concept of the play area, but the specific details gets to be worked out after the grant application is received, if it is, or after the grant is received, if it is received. On the either side of the play area, we have sports. One of the partners for one of the stakeholders for the outreach for the master plan process was the Little League, and they were very interested in having the ability to practice. So we've looked at putting an infield space in this park, also a half-court basketball court, and then maintaining a large open lawn area for active play. And then around the perimeter, we're looking at including pathways that are accessible. At this park, there is a perimeter path, but it is not ADA accessible. And then there's a couple other smaller elements, for example, maintaining the little free library that's there currently. Moving on to looking at Miners Park. Miners Park has the skate park. We're looking at expanding that. As we circulate around the park, we'll kind of go through in a clockwise manner. But there's no sidewalk there currently, so we'd be looking at adding a perimeter path that has a park course or workout circuit around it as well. For the skate park, we'd want to expand the skate park. We are partnering with Friday Night Live, and we're talking to some of the people who were already included. Again, there's not a design for what this skate park would look like, and part of that, enhancing that, would be a part of the process if the grant is received. But the idea is to make it expanded and add some sort of mural and art and real placemaking to the skate park. Looking both clockwise and counterclockwise, on one side you have a large open grass area for active play, and you have a full-size basketball court. And then continuing to move clockwise would be a dog park with a small dog and a large dog area and water and trash. One of the big complaints about this park in particular was that there's a lot of dog poop. And so by having a distinct dog park area and specific rules and lots of trash cans, the idea is that that concern would help mitigate. The playground inspiration would tie back into the idea of the skate park in having a landform-based play area. This would be a unique play area for the City of Marysville, and would sort of mimic the idea of a skate park. And then in the center of this whole area is a plaza. The inspiration for the plaza is the historic Japanese community that was in the area and originally used this park as a ball field area. So the architectural style would draw inspiration from that. This is another park where we have, there's been interest in a restroom, especially with the addition of the dog park, but it is not yet defined how we want to approach that. And here you can see a rendering that was done of what this would look like. You can see the skate park in the lower right corner with some murals and some shade structures. On the lower left would be the dog park, and the center would be the plaza with one version of what that might look like, just to give you an idea of the perspective. And then the third park we're looking at is Veterans Park. Veterans Park has a much more urban feel because of its downtown location. It's divided roughly into quadrants currently, and we'd maintain that, and we'd be maintaining the memorial. On the right would be open lawn area for active play. We'd have a playground up on the top. On the bottom would be a healing garden, which would be built around and to support the memorial. And then on the left would be a small stage area with a sloped lawn for seating. Each entrance into this path would have a marker, a Corten steel vertical marker, which would define the space and also provide an opportunity for park signage. Some inspiration for the stage would be something open and accessible to the community, something where different community groups could have events, host small events. There'd be a sloped seating grass area, as was mentioned. Behind the sloped area would be a sort of a statement meadow, a meadow that was really sort of dramatic in that it would offer a lot of color to the space. And we're looking at a more natural playground. We wanted each playground to be really distinct and to be the place so that a kid would say, oh, I want to go to the treehouse playground or park. This would be sort of the natural one, so you can see we have some different options there. There would also be a music area with different musical instruments. These are specifically designed for youth and for parks, and they're all pentatonic tuned so that they're not a auditory, chaotic sound. And then on the last portion of this park is the healing garden. This would be a planted area, it would have smaller paths, and it'd really help to preserve some of the large, substantial existing trees that need some love to make sure that they remain in good health moving forward. And then we'd also have a gazebo picnic area that would be near the play area and the music garden, and would blend into the neighboring homes and their Victorian look. And so that's just a recap of what the plan looks like for that. So I wanted to mention restrooms, and then I'll finish up with the next steps, and then we can come back to this. There's been some different restroom ideas. One is to put in restrooms and have them be locked, so they could only be used sometimes. There's a lot of concerns that people would be frustrated with having one there and be unable to access it. Another idea is to have no restrooms at all. And then a medium that was suggested was that we have a structure that would be permanent and could house a porta potty, and that structure could house a porta potty that could be locked or could be accessible only during events or could be only brought in for events. It provides a little more flexibility. So we'll come back to this. The next steps, if we want to move forward, is that we'd obtain the council resolution to submit the grant application. That's a required part of the grant application. We would then integrate feedback from council into the final design, which would be incorporated into the grant application, which would be submitted by August 5th. Grant recipients, again, are to be announced by the end of 2019, and if the grant is received, we'd be completing construction on each of these parks as a separate grant. So if one or all of them were received, we would still be completing construction by March 2022. If the grant is not received, we'd be able to pursue the park improvements in phases through partnerships and other funding sources, depending on the direction. And there's going to likely be an additional round of funding that'll be through this same grant process. And they provide feedback on all grant applications that are not accepted. And so if these grant applications were not accepted, or they are successfully accepted and we want to pursue different parks, we could consider reapplying for future funding rounds. Just to cover the grant requirements briefly, there's a grant administrative guide that has to be followed. That's essentially what this resolution says, is we'll do the paperwork, we'll meet the construction time frame, and then you're also committing to maintaining the park as this park for 30 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
No?
I had a input.
Yes.
Okay. We'll go to diaper changing tables.
Whoa. Really?
I want to add some. I think we need those elements, especially for, a lot of times our day use for the parks tend to be young mothers or young parents that just kind of use the park as a socialization place, and just having access to water or a place to change their children is always great.
Wonderful. I'll make a note of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
You're aware that we're going to spend $39,000 on Gavin Park putting a well in there. You're aware of that?
Of adding the well?
Yeah.
Yes. So the part of the master plan process, that was the park and open space master plan, identified which parks are getting wells, and the intention is to be utilizing that well water as a part of the improvements and a new irrigation system. That is, the parks that have new irrigation systems planned have been identified, and the idea is that we could incorporate it into this new planting scheme.
Will that be mentioned in the grant application, that there will be wells put in, these four more parks? Not all of these, but just one.
The grant application's very structured in its approach, and so I'm going to look into how that would be integrated and if it's necessary to integrate. It is something that has been incorporated into the design piece.
I said 39,000 to 139,000.
Yes, no, it's a substantial, yeah.
For that one park.
Yeah, the wells are
One park.
an important piece.
Now, you talk about a 30-year sustainability. How are we going to fund that? Is there going to be a parks department? Are we going to go out and get a parks district to support the park? We can't afford to support that type of a program. It's Marysville right now, staffing-wise.
Yeah, that's an important question, an
It is
important piece of
important.
this. The grant itself does not cover maintenance, and so the parks have to be maintained as a part of the maintenance currently underway and the program that we have. The grant application will be part of the process if the grant is received, is that a maintenance manual will be produced. And then other concerns that are associated with it is that with new irrigation systems and new playgrounds, there are warranties and there are improvements that are made that do not have to be, some of the maintenance will no longer have to be done that is being done. There's no programming involved in the parks except for the restroom, which is why this is one of the questions we're bringing before council in terms of the direction on that, because that does involve increased maintenance, whereas a new playground, for example, doesn't. And this is something that we've been working with the city throughout the process to make sure that this is feasible.
I'd be very concerned as to staffing. You know, we have 4 people maintain 7 parks now. And now we're going to put all these trees in and all this other stuff and the fixtures and maintenance of that. I'd like to know how this council will fund those additional staff to maintain those parks. I think that's a question that needs to be answered.
Do you foresee additional staff from what we have, Marty?
We don't have any plan for that right now. This is a couple years out of implementation if we were awarded the grant, so I think that would be part of the process, would be to figure out exactly what our needs are, do an assessment on that, and then evaluate whether we need to increase staffing levels.
Thank you. This is not necessarily an answer, just maybe my own thought on that is that we're reducing the amount of grass in many of these parks. So that's less maintenance in my mind, and we're going to improve the irrigation systems, and that seems to me that there's going to be some savings even in our use of water. And it's not all parks. It's going to be 3 specific parks with 3 specific uses that I think our community have provided a lot of feedback on and really want this to happen. So I think it's in our best interest to assure that we support their will to make their parks beautiful in a place where they want to use and continue, you know, making pride of their neighborhoods. I think the public has actively engaged. I'm not sure, relatively speaking, how active the engagement was, but for seeing 25, 50 people, 150 surveys, that's active participation. I think people are looking for improvements in our park. So I think we need to, this is a priority that I think people have been speaking about, and we need to kind of figure that one out if we get funded.
I got a question and a comment.
Yes.
Or suggestion, I should say. On the Veterans Park, where you've got the amphitheater, you might want to switch that to the other direction, because if you do have music or whatever there, it's going to be blowing right into the houses, where if it's at the G Street side, it'll be blowing into a commercial area. So just a thought. And then, was there any consideration anywhere for a water park?
So the community feedback was what drove the design, and at the first community outreach meeting, there was nobody who commented on including some sort of spray park. There was some mentions of it in the second community outreach meeting, although they weren't as strong as many of the other elements, and there's a lot of concern around the maintenance of it. And so one of the ways that these were designed was that they do have to be maintainable, and we want to be really sensitive to that. So yes, it was brought up, and no, it wasn't pursued.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Question clarification. You're saying that notification of grant awarding is done at the end of 2019? Is that what I heard right?
Yeah, notification of the grant, of who receives grants, is the end of 2019.
So then the rest might be a cart before the horse kind of question. What is the lead time? You're looking 2020 completion or 2022 completion?
March 2022, the park construction is required to be completed per the grant application or per the grant process. And so if all 3 parks are received, we'd want to stagger those parks. Which order they go in is a question that would be determined by the city and in conjunction with Marty Brown, although we would expect that probably there'd be a lot of reason to go with the simpler one first so that we could get construction underway. And then we want to stagger them 1 year at a time was the discussion that's been had so far.
So you guys would be like the general manager of all the projects? And
We have the capability to be a construction administrator for the project. Construction administration time, and design construction document time, which construction documents do still need to be prepared. We have conceptual level plans at this point. That's all covered by the grant if it's received. And so there would need to be city input because it's a city park and it's important that it meets city needs. But that's something that would definitely be available to do.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
What's the size of the grant proposals?
So the grants range, it's a minimum of $200,000 and a maximum of $8.5 million per park. And so the actual parks that we are looking at right now are not $8.5 million and they're not $200,000, but we're not finished pricing them out because we haven't finished confirming the design yet on these.
Based on your experience, though, I mean, you're looking at a couple million or?
A couple million, yes.
Right.
And then this will also include the design piece, and we want to make sure we're providing really comprehensive construction administration and maintenance manuals, and that piece of it would probably increase the cost a little as well.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Is there points given for disadvantaged communities?
Yes, so the grant itself is only for underserved communities, and they define underserved in two ways. One is financially, and the other is with park land. And so you must meet certain criteria just to be eligible. And then beyond that, you get additional points for the more underserved your community is, which is part of the reason we've looked at these three particular parks, because they actually look at only a half-mile radius around the park, which means that we wanted to make sure the parks weren't so close together that we're overlapping, and then we'd get those parks double counted. And so it would reduce the amount of park acreage per person ratio to our disadvantage.
I thought it was strategic to everybody get a little bit because it's strategically placed in three
That was
different
actually a part of what we were looking at too. We didn't want to cluster all of the improvements in one neighborhood because that's really kind of unfair.
You don't want to put it by the mayor's house?
No. Got one by my house, though. Gavin.
Any other comments?
No? Thank you.
I'm so excited. Thank you for your work.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think the bathrooms, I don't know if any of the members have, I think we make it happen, folks. The bathrooms need to be there. The maintenance, we just make it happen. How we afford it, I don't know, but we need to have bathrooms in our centers. That's my thought.
Can we have restrooms and not bathrooms?
Sure, restrooms. But we could have bathrooms, showers.
Yeah, we have showers.
So restrooms for sure. I think in my mind, we need to have beautiful facilities for the members of our community in our neighborhoods. There's a lot of eyes in those neighborhoods. And all the houses face those parks. Anyway, in my mind, with the right lighting and the right environment, I mean, those things are going to be safe, and we're going to, we'll set schedules. But I really believe that we need beautiful facilities, and we can't just shortchange it.
And this, I would like to point out that this is an opportunity to put in expensive infrastructure through the park grant application. They do not partially fund any applications. If we receive the grant, we receive all of the funding necessary for the park.
I have one more question. Yeah.
But I just want to hear from folks. I mean, are you guys on the same page? Or?
So no, I got a question about the bathrooms.
Yeah.
I know that in some regions, and again, cart before the horse question, maybe put into the whole design plan, is that sometimes there's a monetary fee used for a bathroom. Whether it's a small amount of money just to be able to use it. That way we don't have somebody camping in it.
Yeah,
Something along those lines.
I think the approach, if we want to pursue having bathrooms, the approach will need to be discussed in terms of maintenance and safety of the restrooms.
I'm sorry, Bruce, I muddled. I was saying if there was some sort of fee for being able to, like, card swipe the lock to get in there, door and window company, maybe there's something.
Neighborhoods. I mean, yeah, I think that's the solution. That the facility itself needs to look beautiful. I mean, we just need to have. But yeah, I think those design elements. I think we have enough smart folks that are going to help us out and maybe identify solutions for those.
I think it's a good idea to have them. I mean, obviously, the point brought up about maintenance is going to be an issue we're going to have to work on the next few years as we're moving forward on this. Along with bathrooms, we're going to have to figure out how we're going to maintain them, how we're going to keep them safe. We'll leave that up to Chris to figure that out. I know he wants to do that, so. But, and, you know, and hopefully as we resolve the homeless problem more and more, it's going to be less and less problem with bathrooms in the park. But I see it as a plus.
Sir?
Yeah, just question, why is not, did Beckworth Riverfront Park not qualify for any of this?
So Beckworth Riverfront Park, actually every park in Marysville that is owned by the city does qualify, but they are not particularly competitive because the number of people who live near Beckworth Riverfront Park compared to the amount of park land, because you're looking at that half-mile radius, puts the ratio of parkland to residents very high, and you get additional points for having a low parkland to resident ratio, so a low level of service.
That residents or total population using it?
That's a good question.
It is, because it is used by multi-counties.
Yes, it is resident, it is people living within a half-mile radius. And so for a regional park like Beckworth Riverfront Park, it can be really challenging to make that happen, but another consideration was the timing of the Park and Open Space Master Plan and the amount of time it would take to complete the design process for Beckworth Riverfront Park. There was concerns that there was insufficient time to do justice to that size of a park, and also to the time frame for construction was a concern, especially if all of the grants were received. And so the question was, do we consider putting all of our efforts into just Beckworth Riverfront Park, especially because it's not as competitive, or do we go for these other three that are more competitive? And the decision that was made was that the other three that are more competitive and were more highly prioritized based on the feedback from the Park and Open Space Master Plan was the direction to go.
I think there's a little problem with that resident issue, that 1 mile. I don't qualify because I live a mile half away from there, and I live up by Gavin Park. So that's not a really realistic statistic to do population density around.
Yeah, the choice of using half a mile is an
anyway.
Interesting one. Yeah.
If no more comments or questions from the council members, I'd like to invite the public to comment on this item.
Hello, my name is Dale Whitmore. I very much agree with the mayor that we need to get restrooms into these parks. I think many people are tired of being considered third-class citizens in a little valley town, and that we need to continue on with upgrading the parks, getting the restrooms in. We're going to invite people in, put in picnic pavilions, and try and get our kids out there for birthday parties. We have to have the restrooms. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question there?
Sure.
Mr. Whitmore, what did you mean by being third-class, treating people like third-class residents?
You're going to regret that.
It's okay, I don't
You
know.
probably, maybe some of you haven't heard me
Before.
Our parks have always been just the bare minimum parks. While you go to other cities around the area and you find places with covered pavilions, places, much higher class public areas for people to use. And I see us finally getting there. And restrooms are a very important part of that, so that we can raise the standard to which people get used to. And our standards here for some of our public parks have always been, we've had to fight for a long time. For years here, our parks have been brown. We've had fires in our grass areas in our parks.
I just didn't understand the third class, that you were referring to the people or the parks or the way that the council has handled them, because you've been on the council, you were on quite a while, so.
That's right.
I'm trying to wonder who you were referring to as third class.
And I'm as much a part of the problem here as anyone else. And I see this as a real positive, and getting the restrooms in and upgrading these parks is a way to raise the standard for our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Sly. I've been an advocate for the skate park at Minor Park. I think this is a great idea. I can see a lot of kids going there. I think you guys need to also think about how these parks are not only just for fun, but they're also a way for kids to escape sometimes not the best homes. I've been on the skate park for a very long time. I'm the oldest one there, so the kids are always talking to me about how they don't want to be home. They want to be at the park because they feel accepted and they feel like it's kind of like a barbershop type feel. There's always good vibes going, and just seeing this is just amazing. So I am greatly appreciative of all their hard work, and I think you guys should definitely take this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Janet Siller, Sutter Yuba Friday Night Live. I'd entertain that you take our property down here on the corner and maybe take it in as a park as well, and we could have improvements and be able to water the yard and that kind of thing. Thanks.
Thank you, Jan. Any other comments? I think you also might want to take a look at the Boy Scouts. They're pretty active in this area, especially for the dog parks. Seems like a great place for projects for the Boy Scouts.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think we move forward on this. I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 2019-36. Motion by Mr. Hudson, second by Mr. Buttacle-Woolley. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion is approved with the vote of 4-0. Thank you, everyone, and thank you so much for your work. Sure. Thank you. Let's move to item 9B. This is an update of Integrated Regional Water Program, IRWM, and the City Infrastructure Assessment. Ms. Brown?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. So Katie Burdick is back again to visit the council, and she has two items, both B and C. So they're going to kind of run together, but we thought we'd start out with an update of the Integrated Regional Water Program because it kind of dovetails and informs the next discussion after that in terms of the revisiting the council's goal-setting workshop from March of 2019. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Katie to give you all an update and then move into the next item.
Katie, my condolence.
Thank you.
I know your mom was a big cheerleader of Marysville, so.
She was, yes. And one of the last things she said, actually, was about 810 G Street, which is where she grew up. So, yeah, she was. Thank you. So for the IRWM, let me unload all this. The important thing for you all to remember is that the IRWM is the entry point for being eligible for Yuba Water Agency funding for any future projects. So the plan, as currently adopted, has very few, actually only one, City of Marysville project. So when we actually heard that Jim had left, one of our first reactions was to work through an alternative grant source to contract with the Rural Community Assistance Corporation, RCAC, and we're actually having a meeting with them next week, I think. And what RCAC is going to do is actually do a formal capital improvement plan for the city based on technical evaluation of each project. So what we found as we started working with Jim and others is that a lot of the projects that you all have on your list, you have a name, you have a basic description, but you don't have any technical detail that would actually enable us to provide and prepare an application. Sorry, my voice is bad today. Prepare an application. So what the capital improvement plan will do
is enable you to have another level of project prioritization, which is based on a physical understanding of each project, as opposed to the more subjective criteria that we have now. Thanks. This is allergy season, so on top of a bad voice, allergies doesn't work. It also will help us do applications for the IRWIM and also applications for other funding sources. So I think as we do the plan update this fall, we should be able to have some of the preliminary results in the plan, but the Yuba Water Agency today authorized an extension of my contract, and a specific line item in there is working with the city. So I'll be working with you to pursue other funding sources, as well as IRWM related, as well as Yuba Water Agency. So one initiative that the agency has started is an unconventional funding source strategy, which looks at impact investing and other similar sort of evolving strategies. So the city will be right on the list for me, because you all know that I always bring Marysville up to the top. So Marysville will be one of the first sets of projects that we run through these new funding strategies. But at first we need the capital improvement plan, the CIP, the SIP. So that's the first thing we're going to work on with our CAC. And we hope that we'll have it done in the next 2 or 3 months. So that, I think, is probably the most important update. So the plan's going to be updated to have new goals, some of which will benefit Marysville, because they'll include economic sustainability and diversity. So we'll just keep going as we've been, and move you up.
Yeah. Any questions?
So.
Thank you, Katie.
Okay, so the next piece is to revise goals, objectives, and prioritization table, which Marty had to tear mine out of hers because I neglected to bring a printed one. Oh, okay, good. You don't need one. Yeah. So what this is the result of the last time I was here on June 4th. So I went through with Marty, we updated the vision statement, updated all of the goals, and we also added a status section under each goal to let you know what had been accomplished in the previous fiscal year. So I want to remind all of you that these goals look for full implementation by 2023. And we take them a fiscal year at a time. So for this upcoming fiscal year, we'll be working on each of these to advance them or complete them as we can. So my voice being what it is tonight, I'm not sure you actually want me to read all of these. So I would ask if you had any questions on the vision statement. Marty, do you want to?
I just wanted to, I probably should have said this at the beginning, I'm sorry, but I just wanted to, I guess, share with the council that one of the reasons this is on right now and what we're trying, the objective here of what we're trying to achieve is council approval this evening so that this can make it into the budget. I know you approved the budget on June 18th, but myself and city staff have been diligently working to compile that into the hard copy that will then be the PDF electronic that'll go on to the city's website. That'll be our budget for the year. It'd be great to have a vision statement and goals and some level of projects included in a chapter in the budget, just like we did last year. So I'm getting close to wrapping all of that up. I'm shipping it off to the graphic designer, and this is our last meeting before September, early September. So I wanted to see if we could get something together that we could add, that you would be comfortable adding to the budget for this year. So I'll hand it back over to you. I just wanted to say, preface that.
Good context. So how are you feeling about the vision? Does it?
Why ...
Well, when I went to school, you could use ... as a way to separate concepts. I think probably we could take those out.
Oh, I don't know. It reminds me of our president's tweets. There was ...
Okay, I'll take them out tonight. It's a legacy punctuation.
Other than that, I think this is what we really felt that day when we got together. I don't know how many months ago. January, February? March. Seemed longer. Seems like I've seen these people a lot longer. But I don't know, any other comments about the vision statement? Otherwise, we can kind of move forward if there's no comments.
None.
Okay.
Okay.
Goals?
And the goals, to me, the three goals: increase fiscal sustainability, and I think we met, I think, all of those. Expand economic development opportunities. I think my hope is that we'll meet again and look at these again, right?
Yeah.
Spring?
Yeah, spring? Is that the plan?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Unless
And,
the council wants to do it sooner.
no, I mean, I think there's some things here that we've done, and there's some other, I mean, we've had conversations with the hospital already, and that seems to be going fairly well on the direction that they want to take and kind of our relationship with them. So you can add to that, I guess. And then the working with local merchants. I know that something's coming up in November, December, right? We're bringing a consultant to the downtown. And so improve infrastructure. I need to see roads being fixed, right? That's moving forward. We're doing it a little bit different, but I know that's something that we're working on this year. And enhance public safety. So how did you solve that problem?
We talked with Chris, and after talking with Chris, we came back with a clear differentiation of the two types of crimes, making it clear that, well, first of all, making it clear that when you say crime, it doesn't mean one thing. There's a spectrum or a continuum. So I think one of the things that we left as a to be determined is working with Chris in the first quarter of this fiscal year to actually create some sort of metric that actually works for Chris and for his department. So the first step was differentiating between the two types of crimes, because it's likely that as we move into the next quarter and talk about how to reduce those sorts of crimes, there's going to be a different metric for each type as well as a different strategy. Does that catch it?
Yeah. I do want to, we had a brief meeting today with some folks about homeless, and I keep bringing back this conversation of the great efforts that were made by a local neighborhood down on First and D, and how that neighborhood got together, and they've seen some real decreases in vandalism, and I think there's a really maybe a good model that we might be able to copy to different neighborhoods around, our area. So just to keep that in mind, I'm going to keep bringing that up, Chief, because I think there's some real good results there in collaborating with the local community and stuff, and how people got together and found solutions and tried to find evidence and stuff. So thank you for that work. I think that's the type of things that will significantly impact that particular objective. And supports and park recreation, I mean, we're just moving forward right along, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, witness the...
I think we're kicking
she
butt,
left.
Council.
I do.
Right?
You're getting a lot done.
Any comments on the chart of tasks, or thank you for adding the project area and...
So with the table, the thing to remember about this is we added consistency with goals and objectives at your request after the last meeting. As we do the capital improvement plan, we'll probably bring this back to you with either a second matrix or additional columns that look at the actual characteristics, costs, and physical attributes of the various projects. So the other thing that I meant to do, but because of events, wasn't able to, but I actually think the SIP is a better place to do it, is give these projects better names. Because right now, they're not necessarily descriptive, or they're descriptive of only a narrow part of the project. So that's one of the things that we'll bring back with the SIP, is all the projects will be numbered, and they'll also likely be renamed.
That's great.
Through the chair.
Yes.
A couple of these, just off the top of my head, like the fire department, those are already in process. The fire truck and the EMT truck.
Which is one of the reasons why we left this as a draft,
Yeah.
is the purpose of this really is to give Marty a visual for the budget while we work doing the SIP, and we'll come back to Chris and Ron as part of that process to refine this. So I suppose we could put a draft stamp or a sample stamp or something across it, as opposed to making...
Just a date of the current...
Sure.
Just a date on the
Sure.
current, so it's not draft, it's just kind of an ongoing paper that's
Right.
revised, so the revision date, maybe you just add in
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
Any comments from the public? Well, seeing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the attached revised vision statement, goals and objectives, and project list that was first generated during the City Council meeting on March 4th, 2019 Goal Setting Workshop.
I moved to approve. I was going to say something very flowery there, but I figured I better not.
Is there a second?
I got tongue-tied.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Bartacovoli. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is approved with 4-0. Thank you so much.
Okay, yeah.
This is awesome.
Good. Talk to you all soon.
Great, thank you, Katie. We'll see you Thursday.
Where are we now?
We'll move to 9D, resolution approving an agreement with Fire Recovery USA. Recommendation from staff is to adopt Resolution 2019-37, which would approve a contract between Fire Recovery USA and the City of Marysville for fee collection for emergency incident response performed by the Marysville Fire Department. Chief Carlin.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Before you is a resolution to approve a contract between Fire Cost Recovery USA and the City of Marysville. And as you may recall, in previous council came in to do a presentation for us to provide what their services are capable of and how they can assist us in collecting revenues for services that we currently render and have not collected fees for. So they are the primary purveyor in this region that is collecting these types of fees. And actually, I had a chance to reach out to two of the agencies of the 100 folks that they provide for, and actually received positive feedback of their services and quality, and which they handle those fees. So unless you have any questions, it was pretty straightforward as far as the contractual agreement and their presentation. So if you have any questions, I'd be willing to answer them.
Any questions? So this is based on the presentation that was made to us a month ago.
About that?
I have one question.
Yes.
Is the fire recovery retains a percentage of fees collected? Is that a standard based upon the fee charge?
Yeah, so they don't charge us anything, they only take a portion of fees collected, and it's just a standard percentage.
Because that's not addressed in the resolution, so I was just curious as to, I hope that's not negotiable.
Nope, it's just a standard, that's their industry standard.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Bartacovoli, Mr. Hudson?
None.
Any comments by public members? Seeing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 2019-37.
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Hudson, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bartacovoli. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion is approved with the vote of 4-0. Thank you. Now we have 4 public hearings. We'll start with public hearing to amend the city's fee schedule. Recommendations to conduct a notice to public hearing and adopt Resolution 2019-38 approving amendments. Can folks hear me? Or is it hard? Okay. Amendments to the fire service chapter of the city's fee schedule and rescind all resolutions in conflict therewith. Mr. Carlin.
Mayor and council members, this is a formality that piggybacks off the last resolution. So in order to affect these fees for service, it requires us to do an amendment to the current fee schedule and adopt the new schedule under the fire cost recovery program.
Any questions? Any comments from, okay, I'd like to open up the public hearing. Any members of the public like to speak on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Hearing no questions or concerns, I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 2019-38.
Make a motion.
Motion by Barcavoli, second by Hudson. All those in favor say aye.
Simmons and Hudson.
Oh, Simmons, sorry. I heard
Motion
this
back to
side.
Mr. Simmons.
Are you guys arm wrestling?
No.
So
passing
first
it
by
around.
Simmons, second by Hudson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion's approved with a vote of 4-0. Thank you. Second public hearing to assess the cost of delinquent sewer disposal charges against property. Recommendation for staff is to conduct a notice public hearing and adopt Resolution 2019-39, a resolution to assess the cost of delinquent sewer disposal charges against properties and to transfer such delinquent charges to the secured tax roll for collection in the same manner and at the same time as general taxes of the city. This comes from our finance director, Mrs. Jasinski.
So, good evening, council members, mayor. So in front of you is a resolution to, as you said, to assess the cost of delinquent sewer disposal charges against properties and to transfer the delinquent charges to the secured property roll through the county. So we currently have 179 unpaid accounts that represent delinquencies in the amount of just above $80,754. So the property owners and or tenants have been notified via letters advising them of the delinquent status of their accounts. So assessment of delinquent refuge disposal accounts allowed the city to pursue collection activities for these unpaid balances. So we have Section 5470 and 5473 of the California Health and Safety Code that expressly permit the city to collect these unpaid sewer charges on the county's secured property tax roll and is further authorized by our municipal code in Section 6.04.130. So to be able to enable the use of that statutory collection procedure, the city council must first conduct a notice public hearing to permit affected property owners a final opportunity to bring their accounts current or to contest the validity of the listed charges. So the report that you have for the delinquent accounts are for bills charged prior to May 31st of this current year. Since the tax lien notices have gone out and the posting of the agenda, some of the accounts may have been paid and others will be paid until the data goes out. So the final delinquent list will not be updated until until payments are due by August 12th. That's when it has to go to the county. So the list that you see before you will change depending on when people pay before that time frame. Whatever's not paid by August 12th will be submitted by UMS, who currently does our sewer billing services, and that will be the list that we will be submitting to the county for assessment. This is currently done every year too. I looked back in our ordinance, 960 was adopted in 1981, so this has been a reoccurring assessment from year to year. So that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions?
Through the chair.
Yes.
So UMS collects the fees. I mean, they still got the just accepting checks, or are they changing their format to accept fees? I mean, the payment of the schedule? Is that what I'm hearing?
They can accept the payments up until the due date. At that point, once it goes to the county, they no longer collect that. It's taken off of their current sewer bill and is put on their property taxes, and the only way it can be collected at that point is through the paying of their property taxes.
Copy. Thank you.
I have one question.
Yes.
I'm curious on, I know you said this one isn't updated, but our accuracy on it, only because I know there's times where it's rental properties and the landlord doesn't even know, and by the time the notification comes to them, I'll tell you because I was one, by the time the notification comes to you about a lien process, it's way down the road. So I'm just wondering about the notification and the accuracy of with that, mainly in the sense of rental units.
So where right now is the notification went to where the bill is currently, if it's in a tenant's name or if it's in a owner's name. In some cases, the bill does have an owner name and a tenant name, and both of them would be getting the notifications. It is written in the code, though, that even if a rental is in a tenant's name, that the owner is the one ultimately responsible for that bill, regardless whether they get that.
And I understand it, and I agree with that. I agree with that. I'm just wondering about the notification to the owner when the tenants, when the tenants have it in their name, by the time it gets to an owner, and again, I know this.
Correct.
Unfortunately, from past tenants, the notice at that point is pretty short period of time.
So I believe the notice would have gone out on, the billing is like the second Wednesday of the month. I can't remember the exact date that they do the billing at. I would actually need to contact UMS to find out exactly if they send out any notices prior to that. As far as I've been told, it's just the notices, the monthly bills that are going out that have the notification on that bill.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd have to do a follow-up with them on that. It is something to discuss in the future, finding out is that we might want to consider whether we want to always keep it in an owner's name versus a tenant's name, because this issue does come up. Who should be notified, who is not notified? I have heard that that is an issue, and I have seen that issue coming up. So it would be like something I would like to revisit after this is done this year and look back into our code or work with our billing department to find out how we can make sure that our landlords always know what is going on regardless of the fact.
Yeah.
I can say that I don't know if that has always happened in the manner it could, but it's something that we will probably want to look for in the future to make sure that they're notified.
Through the chair. Thank you. Well, I mean, to agree with you on that, I mean, as a person that's owned rentals as well, not really wanting to go in deep conversation, other counties, it's mandatory that the landlords have the sewer bills and the trash bills sent to them. So
Correct.
we have nothing set up like that here in Marysville. Is that what I'm understanding?
I could not find that when I was reading the contracts and the code for that. So that is something that we do need to approach the company about. We've been with them since 2014. And so that it will be a part of of taking over the office, of the cleanup of the office, is finding out the clarification.
And that's a conversation we can have with UMC.
Yeah, correct.
That
And it will be a
As a
conversation
city.
that we're going to have that we will need to bring to council, because obviously if we're going to change anything in the contract or in our code, we are going to have to bring it to council. But I believe can't do personal opinions on that.
Sure.
But it is, right now the bill is only going to the person who is actually signed up for the account.
Okay.
However, the actual lien can be placed on an owner regardless if they are receiving the monthly notice or not, per the code that we currently have in the
No, I agree with what we need to do,
Yeah.
get the funding for the delinquent right now, but future, that could mitigate this problem if we
Correct.
did create that rule.
And that is something we do need to look into, that we would give you guys an update and look
So in the
into.
future, we can handle that. Right now, we just need to address this. Thank you.
Correct.
Through the chair.
Yes.
I've been on this board for many, many years, and the same names pop up every time we get this list, every time. And some of them have 4 or 5 property rentals that come up. I don't know why they have such a hard time paying their $38 a month for their sewage, if you will, or the garbage, whether we ecology or not, but they're the same names. And I think you guys will pick those up as you look through these more often. You'll see the same names showing up all the time. What can be done about that? Because those properties have probably been liened.
I think that's what we're
Look,
talking
at that
about, Bill.
point, then they
At a
haven't-
future time, take care of
I'm
that.
sorry?
I'm sorry, I think we talked about that. At a future time, we can take care of that with
Well, I was just
creating a
bringing the
mandate.
point to you that there are redundancies in these people not paying their bills, is what I'm trying to bring.
Thank you.
And that needs to be addressed, if there's some way we could do that. You put a lien on it, they can't sell their property, the lien's taken care of.
That would also be a follow-up that we would have with the county too, because since once they go onto the tax lien, we no longer are trying to
That's
collect
right.
them on our end. So I would have to find out the collection process from the county of what they do when people don't pay their property taxes.
money.
Any other questions?
It's ridiculous.
If none, I'd like to open up for a public hearing. Any members of the public like to comment on this area? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. If there's no other comments, I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 2019-39.
Make a motion to adopt.
Motion by Mr. Hudson,
Second?
second by Mr. Buttercawoli. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion is approved with a vote of 4-0. Thank you. I think we're moving to item 10C. This is a similar to the last one. This is to conduct a notice of public hearing and adopt Resolution 2019-40, a resolution to assess the cost of delinquent refuge disposal charges against properties and to transfer such delinquency charges to the secured tax rolls for collection in the same manner and the same time as general taxes of the city. Ms. Finance Director Sisinski.
Hello again, Mayor and council members. Again, in front of you is a resolution to be able to assess the, for trash services against the county tax roll. So the refuse disposal accounts of several property owners in the city of Marysville, as you can tell, are delinquent. So these property owners are notified via refuse disposal bills and letters advising them of delinquent status of their accounts. Additionally, I did contact Recology today, and they informed me that owners and tenants receive quarterly invoices if their account is delinquent. So they do have something in place to let everybody know of that. So garbage is a mandatory service within the city limits of Marysville, which is per our code. And so thus discontinuing garbage service for non-payment is not an option. So for that reason, both state law and the Marysville Municipal Code allow the city to file liens on properties that are delinquent. Again, this list came from Recology. It is through their bills through the end of May, and at that point, this list that we currently have will be updated before it's sent out. So there are some people that are probably on this list that have paid the bill. The list was given to us on Thursday by the time the staff reports are due, so this is a list through last Thursday. And then we will continue to work with both Recology and UMS as the time progresses through the August 12th deadline to get these caught up. We actually work with them on the day of the 12th up till pretty much the closing time to send it to the county. So anybody late who comes in, we're making sure that we're not sending them to the county. So again, it's the same process as we've had in the past for UMS and for Recology. So that concludes my presentation again.
Thank you. Any questions? Comments?
Again, we can alleviate this potential problem in the future if we make a future ordinance that it goes straight to the owners only.
This one is for, it's Recology, so they're the one that are managing. So they are putting in tenants and owners' names.
Okay.
But I could do a little more clarification with them to make sure that both sides are getting it, or only one side, but they are an entity that are doing the billing. They do all the ins and outs of it. We actually have nothing to do with the billing for Recology in that way. We're purely, just because we require trash service in the city, we're the ones that have to put it onto the tax roll. So Recology can't directly go to the county, it has to come to us, and then we put it on the tax collector. So we're kind of a third party when it comes, we're a pass-through when it comes to this.
Is there a financial number involved with this right now, or?
So it's about 85,000.
Close to the last one, okay.
And so these are also a fee that when it comes on the property tax roll. When we receive the income, we actually turn it around and we send that check to Recology. There is a $40 assessment fee that the city assesses Recology to be able to put it on the lien list.
Mm-hmm.
So we take that amount off of the first payment received by the county, and then as the payments come in, we get it. We literally take that same amount less our $40 and mail it off to Recology. So these fees are technically for them.
And that pays for your work or so forth? Or
Correct, it's for
work.
administrative fees.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? If not, I'd like to open up this matter to the public for a public hearing.
Good evening, Your Honor, City Council. My name is Kai Carpio. I live in Marysville. The issue that I have with this is that Recology doesn't pick up the trash. So they're charging me to pick up trash when I don't even have trash cans. I live at 720 Lemon Street, and my neighbor is 820 8th Street, which is a burned down house, and there's trash everywhere. When I had trash cans, everybody puts their trash in the trash can that I have there so that I don't have any room for trash. I called Recology in December to remove the trash cans. Now, I haven't had trash service from December to this month. Why am I getting a lien on my property when I don't even have trash? I am almost a zero waste person. Any trash that I have, I'm able to bring to my ranch where I can do a burn pile for my green waste. My actual plastic trash is so minimal, I have less than a bag a week that I can put in a Recology dumpster at my other residence. So for me, this is like city extortion, because I am not being provided a service, but I'm having to pay for it. Sewer, I understand. Police, fire, I understand. But for trash, if you would like to come and see my house and see how the trash man flies by, almost hits my cars, Recology should be here justifying why they're charging me for nothing.
Thank you, sir. The only answer that I have for you, sir, is that the city requires folks to have a garbage service.
I understand the requirement, but where's the requirement to, I don't know, safeguard my trash cans so that when I have my trash, it's not full from other people's trash?
Right.
Okay? We all know that there is a problem with the homeless, but if any of you would like to come down to 720 Lemon Street, where my house has been broken into 3 times, and there's trash all over the road that I have to pick up, I'm not charging the city to cut down the trees that are in the road. I am not charging the city picking up diapers and trash, and I take that trash and I put it in other trash cans, that, not my own, because I don't have a trash can. So I understand the mandate of I have to have a trash can, but again, it's extortion if Recology isn't providing me a trash can. Okay, it's extortion saying it's a mandate that I have to pay this if they are not giving me a service.
I think there's different points you're making. I think we need to, if you're saying that Recology, you requested the cans, but they're not.
I requested them to remove the cans
Okay.
because they weren't picking them up.
Okay, so that's different. I mean, if you're requesting for garbage cans to be there, then they should be there. If there's vandalism, then that's chief's,
I understand,
yeah.
but the department runs pretty light, and I don't think they have time to call for a vandalism of trash. I don't think
Well, I
that's
think
an effective way to use my police department.
I think there's community policing and neighborhood watch programs that I know the police department is really interested in, working with neighborhoods from, different areas to work with them to solve some of those vandalism issues. But the bottom line, you're required to have garbage service in the city of Marysville. You have an issue with Recology, we can maybe advocate for you to see why, but if you don't want the garbage cans, I guess I don't know how to solve that conflict.
Okay, I understand that, but if they took the garbage cans away, then how can they charge me and put a lien on my property?
You requested the garbage cans to be removed.
Yes, because again, the garbage cans getting filled up with trash not of my own.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I completely understand you. It doesn't take away from the requirement to have garbage service at each home.
Okay. Well, then I guess we're just at an impasse, huh? So basically, this is how the city operates. It gives you, the citizens, no other opportunity, but either you pay or you get a lien on your house.
No, I think what I said is I can advocate for you with Recology to find out if we can find a way to not have those services charged. Second, I offer the services of the chief to work with the neighborhood to figure out ways that you can minimize some of the vandalism. I think we've offered 2 things, but the bottom line, we require all of us who live in the city of Marysville to have garbage services.
I understand that. So how is the advocation for me to have these charges reduced or eliminated?
I can advocate for you, sir.
Excellent.
So I, put your name down and your phone number.
Okay. And return it to you? Excellent. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments on this matter? Don't tell me you don't have garbage cans.
Name's Zach King. I just have a question. So I have a property on C Street, and we have to have garbage, right? So let's say the business owner that I lease to wants to get a dumpster, which costs $300-400 a month, and they just don't pay. So I'm stuck with the bill when I'm supposed to have $40 or whatever the minimum is to meet the requirement. Does that make sense?
I think I missed that. Your tenant ordered a dumpster?
Yeah, let's say the minimum requirement is just a gray trash can, but they chose to get a dumpster
Right.
on their own, and then they stopped paying for it. So I'm stuck with the bill?
Sounds like that might be the case, but I think we need to work that out.
I think you need to sue the heck out of them.
Well, I'm not quite sure what the ordinance says on that particularly right now. I mean, it's mandated that all the residents and businesses in the city of Marysville contract with YSDA for trash, but if you do have a rental, as it stands right now, it sounds like that potential situation could occur, which is not good. I don't have an answer for you it's a good one, Zach.
It seems like an awkward situation. I guess I'm not quite understanding. They had enough trash that they wanted to service a dumpster?
It's a hypothetical.
Hypothetical.
A hypothetical.
Oh, okay. I mean, I think you can explain, but the fact of the matter is, you have to have a service, you gotta pay for it. It goes back to the property owner if it's not. And
Is the
unfortunately, I
contract-
can just tell you from being a landlord, I've run into it. So
Can people call Recology and request as a renter, request services, or it has to go through the property owner?
now, the tenant can do it. Typically, in my case, because it's mandatory, and you never know if they're gonna pay it, I put it into my own name as a landlord.
Correct.
But yes, they can put it into their name.
To the chair, while we're talking this discussion, I had a constituent call me the other day on this very issue. And I mentioned to this person that perhaps when you lease the property, you put a deposit on the garbage, if you will, to be paid to you, like $1,000 deposit, whatever it might be. They refuse to pay it, and then you don't give them back their deposit on when they terminate, or you take that deposit and pay that bill. And you can get that right in your lease. Your lawyer could write it right up. There's nothing wrong with that. It is legal. It's a $2 bill.
Sure.
And that way, you're exonerated for taking money out of your pocket to pay for it. And they make it, when you sign the lease, you make a deposit, and the deposit is for trash. And you keep that.
But what about the people that are in leases already I have a 5-year lease already with this person?
Well, you can amend the lease as long as they sign it.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Leases can be amended.
Sorry, Bill, were you done?
Sure, go, I'm finished.
I mean, I owned a rental in Sacramento, and they had a mandate that I, as a landlord, had to pay for the trash, water, sewer, and all that stuff. So in my contract, I ended up, if they wanted a larger trash can, that they had to adjust the rent to pay for it. But that was in that county. We don't have that here, it sounds like. So until something like that is created, dare I say created, that is a potential hypothetical conundrum you're going to come up with there, man. I don't think we have a fix at this moment.
Explain that one more time, Brad. I don't understand. We don't have that here. What is that? What are you talking about?
So when I was a landlord in another county, there was a mandate that all landlords legally had to pay for trash, water, and sewer.
Okay.
And that was just integrated into the rent.
Gotcha.
We don't have that
No,
here.
we don't.
So I don't like making more rules, but it's, something along the lines that,
Dark government.
you're gonna have to kind of maybe figure that out in your own contract, I think, man.
Okay.
That's what I do.
Okay.
Thanks, Zach. Sorry, man. Wish it was a better answer.
Any other members of the public like to come up and speak on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Any comments from council members? Seeing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 2019-40.
I make a motion to approve. That was just for the collection of the funds, right?
Yeah.
We got a little off case there, so.
Oh, yeah. The resolution as presented by staff, 2019-40.
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Hudson, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Simmons. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion's approved with the vote of 4-0. Let's move to item D, public hearing regarding non-consensual tow service franchise agreements. This recommendation is to conduct a notice of public hearing and adopt Resolution 2019-41, a resolution authorizing the city manager or her designee to enter into non-consensual tow service franchise agreement. This comes from our Chief of Police, Mr. Sachs.
Mr. Mayor, honorable council members, before you this evening is a recommendation to approve Resolution 2019-41. In order to adhere to the City of Marysville Municipal Code, staff's required to release a request for proposal to the public, which we have done so on April 6th, or I'm sorry, excuse me, July 6, 2019. The current contract expires in September of 2019, and in order before a new franchise agreements can be awarded effective September 2nd, 2019, a public hearing by council is required. We've sent out, in accordance with Chapter 1018, we sent out a request for proposals to the public, and the proposals that were received back by our office were from Randy's Towing, Sanchez Towing, Giwiki Towing, WAP Towing, Dan Preston Towing, Los Amigos, and Dick's Towing for the upcoming rotation cycle. It's a 2-year cycle where they're required to pay fees to be on the franchise agreement for the rotational tow service. And just as a side note, the department tows several hundred, if not almost 1,000 to 1,500 vehicles a year, so this rotation list is definitely much needed. So that's our recommendation at this time.
Questions? Seeing none, I'd like to open up to the public for public hearing. Seeing no public members coming up, I'll close the public hearing. If there's no other comments, I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 2019-41.
Make a motion to adopt.
Motion by Mr. Hudson, is there a second? Second by Badakawoli. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion is approved with the vote of 4-0. Committee reports. Any committee reports? Any council correspondence? No. Ms. Brown's city manager's report?
Just reminder that this weekend is the Peach Festival, Friday and Saturday, and there's lots going on, so come on out.
Be peachy.
Yep, exactly.
Dawned on me what you just said, peach.
So what time is the pie eating contest, sir, between council
The junior varsity will be there at 1:30.
Come on.
Mr. Mayor called me out today on 93Q that he couldn't be at the pie eating contest, so he would send the junior varsity.
Just giving them a
Which
bit of a chance.
happens to be me, and I just want to say that I'm going to show you where we can blow you and Sean out of the water.
Just give him motivation, see?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Council comment. Mr. Badakawoli.
Just looking forward to the Peach Festival. I think it's going to be a great time, and I'm proud to be there representing you.
Thank you. Mr. Simmons?
Yeah, I have a comment. I would like to encourage the city council to do a concept adoption of this river water, Yuba River water pumping. I think with the aeration program at the end of August is when that's coming up. If that fails, we don't have a backup plan. And the original concept on that whole process for that fine we're paying off was to have 2 processes. One was aeration and the other was water from the Yuba River. I don't know what we'll do if that test on that aeration fails. We don't have a backup. And I would suggest that we consider tonight in concept to direct staff to continue vetting this process and see what we could do to get that thing started as a test project. We don't get that quality aeration going and say that it does go, there's no reason why we still can't use Yuba River water. There's nothing that says we shouldn't be able to do that. And now we have an opportunity where the citizens are coming forth, investing their money, making sure that that works to help us aerate that lake. And as I've said before, Mr. Mayor, that I don't feel that unless you transfer water and flush that lake, aeration's not going to do a thing. So I would encourage the City Council now take a concept vote and saying that we do support this and direct staff to.
I think I'm fine with directing staff to see if there's any conflict between.
Yeah, there you go.
If there's a conflict between the aeration project that we committed to the state, and if both can be true, then I don't see why that can't happen.
Good.
But if there is a conflict,
Then we
allow
have-
staff to investigate that and work with the state and find out if there's a conflict between what we committed to the state based on an agreement that we had.
Yep.
And if there is a conflict, then unfortunately we can't work on it this year. Hopefully, if it doesn't work, they'll come back next August.
Well, I think the conflict was the fact that the engineer, what is it, ECI? Is that the company? AKI. They came back and said the Yuba River water was not feasible, and they only gave the one option of putting aeration in, which they're the sole proprietor of that.
I'm just concerned with if there's a conflict with the state.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I like to ask staff if they can find that, if there's a conflict or if there isn't, and then we can.
If I could just add that while the project starts in August, it's a 3-month aeration and then a monitoring project after that. And so it's actually the final report on whether it worked or didn't work. It doesn't come out until the first quarter of 2020. And so if we're doing that experiment, I don't know how, if you want to call it a pilot project, an experiment, I don't know how we could do both at the same time and actually get accurate results. I think I'd like to recommend to the council that we finish the aeration project and the outcome and get a report for the spring, first quarter of 2020 before looking at other options.
I mean, that could include in part of your analysis. If we can just provide that as part of your analysis, so then we can get a report back from staff. And if that's part of the analysis that both can't be true because of whatever reason, then that's your analysis, then we can move forward. But we can't take a vote right now.
No concept,
Yeah.
is all I'm talking about.
But I'm asking staff to maybe look and get back to us as soon as possible.
Good. I'll agree with that.
Any other comments, sir?
Yeah, I had one, the aeration contract, if that fails, we need to be thinking about what we're gonna do. That's all I have to say, because I don't feel that's gonna do it, but that's my own judgment. Unless we flush that water, it's not gonna happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hudson?
Yeah, I got some thoughts on that. I'm just trying to figure out, I mean, I did sit down with those individuals talking about the Yuba Water project. My concern with it is that we don't have a benchmark to start from inside of the proposal that Mr. Matthews came up with. I didn't quite hit if there was going to be some sort of study or test doing, because we're already doing that with what I'm calling the 143 pilot project, $143,000 project. And that was going to be the benchmark that we're going to go by. It's a 3-month test, is that what you said, Marty?
It's, they're looking at the before, during, and after. So they did the before monitoring, now we're gonna do the during of the actual aeration, August, September, October, and then they wanna see how things look afterwards, and then write a report about whether it worked.
And so would be potential concern with that project being skewed if we were able to theoretically get this to work.
Correct.
Inside of the timeline that Mr. Matthews and Mr. Whitmore want to make this happen, that would throw the study off if they actually did make that work.
I don't think we could get accurate results if we're doing 2 experiments, if you will, at the same time.
You're right.
Okay, that settles a few things I didn't have answers to before, and I get it, so thank you.
That's why
Are you eating any pies Saturday?
One more time? No, I already told you I'm
Changing
not
the
eating
topic,
pies,
I wanna move on, guys. No pies?
No pies for me, man. So on my last comment, I'd like to say, since this is our first meeting since the 4th of July fireworks show, I just wanted to say thank you again to the staff in the city and the fire department, the police department, Yuba City Public Works. A special thanks to Viking Woodworks for making signs, because I got no artistic purview in my bones. So they made signs for me, and I thank them for that. Also, ECV, Campus Vitus, they helped me clean up on Saturday, which was phenomenal. That was a lot of work that I didn't want to do by myself, and I thank them for that. I think the show was a good success. I got positive feedback, and people saw it from just about everywhere, and I'd like to entertain the idea of making a little bit of a sharper program for years to come with logistics and working with it and so forth. But thank you for everybody's help and support for pushing that through inside of a 5-6 week period. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just remembered on the fireworks. Our ordinance is only allowing us to charge very little. You want to bring that up, Brad?
Yeah, actually, thank you, Bill.
That's your area. I just.
No, thank you for the reminder on that. As many of us know, many of the other jurisdictions, Sutter County and Yuba City, they have a $1,000 fine for illegal fireworks being fired, and the city of Marysville only has a $250 fine. And I don't know how we're going to impose or enforce it, but it is something that I would like to look at the future for maybe changing, so we can get that adjusted to be parity with our local neighbors.
Yes. The chief would be happy, right, sir?
Is that by ordinance? Go ahead.
If I could just add that earlier this year, during the budget season, you all approved updating the master fee schedule, of which that would be included. So that is coming very soon.
That's an ordinance change.
Well, we're going to be updating the master fee schedule, the entire fee, and looking at all the market rate all around us. And
so we'd just be
so this would be included.
Yeah, so
right.
we'd just be,
exactly.
Not the, yes, thank you.
Before next 4th of July.
Okay, thank you.
But does the fee schedule change the ordinance?
It would be a public hearing, and so we would, the fee schedule that we just did earlier this evening, it'd be a very similar process, just like the amendment we did for fire, for the fire.
What I'm saying, Marty, is that is an ordinance.
No, it doesn't.
That's what I thought. So you have to change the ordinance.
Yes.
And that's just an amendment.
But we can look at that, changing with an amendment on that in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Bill, I forgot about that.
That's why we're a team.
Any other comments, sir?
No, not me.
4th of July, awesome. I think it can only get better, and I thought from everything I heard that folks from both sides of the rivers, the levees, the bridge. I mean, next year we might. I don't think the bridge is going to be ready by next year, but it'll be great when they kind of redo that bridge on 5th Street. It's going to be also kind of another quality spot for the fireworks.
If I could comment on that, probably logistically wouldn't happen from the bridge. It would be a required shutdown of like 3 hours from the pyrotechnics to make that work, so I don't think that's going to work.
Okay. In any case, thank you, sir. Gold Sox, it's the last week this weekend. I know is there, you can do both, do our Gold Sox game, go see some music, enjoy peaches, enjoy downtown. It's going to be beautiful weather. I guess it's not going to hit more than 94 on Saturday, so it's going to be perfect to go out there and have a great time. There was something I wanted to say that I'm very proud of our work when it sticking together with the parks and master plan and moving that forward. I know sometimes it takes a lot of time to kind of get to where we're at, but I think our patience is going to pay off because it's planned out. If we do get the grants, I mean, it's going to be an amazing, amazing. We're going to have amazing parks for our community and our neighborhoods, and I know they'll be very proud of them because they contributed to them, and they'll be sure to keep a good watch on them. And so I'm proud of our work for that. I have really nothing other than say, but please enjoy the Peach Festival and stay safe. And we'll move to item 15. We have 3 closed session items. One is conference with real property negotiator Marty Brown regarding the property known as Bryant Field. The other one's conference with real property negotiator Marty Brown regarding soccer fields located at Beckworth Riverfront Park. And lastly, conference with labor negotiator Marty Brown regarding the following bargaining units: Teamster. We'll take a 2-minute break to go to the restrooms and we'll meet. Staff have been given direction and no action. There's no reportable action. I'd like to adjourn to our regular meeting of City Council September 3rd. And by the way, September 2nd is my birthday, so I have presents ready. 2019 at 6 p.m.